Welcome everybody to this first UAA Virtual Symposium. It's been a roller coaster for everyone, I'm sure, and I'm super happy that everybody is here. It's a Saturday morning and some people are in other time zones even, so it's Saturday afternoon for you already. So thanks so much for making time to being here with us today. Really, really appreciate it. We're going to do a full day program today, and I'll let you know in the agenda very soon what exactly we're going to do. But I know how difficult it is for everybody to be here, so we really want to make the most out of your time and give the most value for you during this very, very full programmed day. Why did we do the symposium virtually this year? Obviously because we couldn't travel, but also we didn't choose to postpone the symposium simply because we thought it's a great time also to connect with each other when everybody's sitting at home, and it's good to meet each other, learn and grow together, and so to drive the Unitech spirit forward even in these difficult times. So super happy that we see now 72 connected people now really live. Great, because this is the biggest symposium already now in history. So thumbs up for that, guys, to everybody. Yes, super cool. And this is the agenda. Now we have this morning different keynotes with great speakers. I saw Ian was already on the call, so welcome. We know which year you are, so we will actually group you into what we call virtual lunch tables. So you can have lunch with people of your own year. We will create breakout rooms where you can actually see only the people of your year or people in your closest generation, so you can network with each other. And then in the afternoon, we have some more things or more interactive things, workshops, and of course, celebration around 4. That's the symposium part. We'll have a break. And then for those who are alumni, we have, of course, the General Assembly at in the afternoon. So we'll decide on the future of UAA, present you what's happening, and then we close around 6 CET. So that's kind of the agenda. I will for now stop sharing 1 second so you can actually see who is actually in the council. So you can recognize them also when they are doing something, speaking and so forth. Then it's our finance officer in the council. This is Francesca, she's our vice president in the council. Our local chapter coordinator officer. So a lot of people know him. And then we have here Sylvia.
Hi all. Morning.
Sylvia is our communications officer. And then we have, of course, here our symposium team. Symposium team. Hi. Laura and Samantha, who has been working really hard in order to put all the program together and organize in London, which in the end we are not in London, but we are still with you in London somehow still. So, right? Before we get started into the content, I go like literally 5 minutes into the UAA. So everybody is aligned again what it is about. Also because I know a lot of people have not been engaged with us for a long time and are back here with us. So very quickly, what do we do in UAA? 5 minutes. So we are a network of course, Unitech alumni, but all of us are professionals and top-notch, representing a new generation of leaders, change makers, and influencers. In all our fields, we influence what we influence, and we truly drive change in this global new economy because we have the ambition and competence to advance the world. So we have 13 local chapters, more than 1,000 people globally. So what we do is organize a lot of events because we want to facilitate transformational interactions between people. Now, this can be any kind of thing that you want to do in order to drive your ambition to advance the world. Yeah. So not only physical events, a virtual events as well, laying connections and so forth. So that's what we aim to do for our community. And we are, of course, linked to the Unitech office, so the new students, the CPs and APs who are all invited to our events. And we are still linked to everybody in order to make the most out of it. We have also events with CPs, for example. We help the APs when they recruit new students into the new cohort. So we are all one big family. And who is behind it? You already saw the council. I will quickly say the 13 chapters in Europe that we have currently are here, the list you see on the left. We have for each of these chapters local chapter coordinators who are alumni, who are passionate about connecting people in their location and the environment of their location. So we have a group of people very passionate that are driving this every day, and we have events all across the year. So look out for an event in your environment, or if you're visiting a location, please look out for if anything is happening in the local chapter of Unitech. And again, we have the council that you just saw, so I won't say much about that. Then some overview of all the events that we've done this year. I mean, from last symposium till now, you see that we did some events with corporate partners. The number here is how many people attended. So global events are those that are invited with different people from different generations. We do the corporate partner events, but also at a Unitech end of year startup week, we are present as well doing some things. We have also local events, some very high interesting events with the global groups. And of course, we have virtual events like webinars, which you hopefully will see a lot more this year, and this amazing symposium. So just very quickly, I would focus just on why it's interesting for you. I would say, of course, expand your network, right? For whatever you need, we're here together. We drive a better economy, better world together for the cause that you want to drive. There's events that you can also share and get inspired by other people, and of course, get back into the Unitech spirit. That's for you, the alumni, the main things that we try to do to add value to you. And then of course, for CPs, there's a lot of other things that and APs, what's interesting for them. So if you're a part of CP or an AP, here is the list of things that UAA can be for you. I won't go into detail. You can look it back later if you want. Then connect with us. If you're not connected with us yet, we have a LinkedIn profile called UAA Council. We already have the majority of the alumni connected to us. Why would you connect to us? One, because we announce our events there, of course, all the updates are there, but also it's a database that you can drill down into if you want to find other alumni, okay? So it's also your database. So these are two main reasons why you should connect if you haven't already. So that for the UAA, and I just wanted to show you some stats of this symposium. Actually, it's already outdated because we actually have more than this at the moment of speaking. We had yesterday evening 112 registrations, and you see they're mainly alumni, and you can also see they're all across the generations, which we are extremely proud of. So we see that 52% has never joined a symposium before. So welcome, guys. This is your first symposium. Applause for you indeed. I see applause. So super cool. And those who have joined before, welcome back. And whoever is not sure, well, you have now. So welcome to the symposium. And I hope, of course, this is going to be a great experience for you. So we are here partially because of COVID-19. So that brings us together. There's good things and there's bad things about it. I don't know how your lives are affected, but I'm sure it has, because of work, professionally, personally, in all senses of the word. What did you learn because of COVID-19? What are the insights and learnings you got because of this? So let's discuss it in smaller groups so you get to know other people as well. You will get an invitation on your screen to join a separate room within this call. And you just discuss what did you learn because of COVID-19. Everybody back. So, was it a good experience, guys? Yes? Cool? All right. So let's do a little debrief, right? So let's capture. What did you learn because of COVID-19?
Europe as a conglomerate of states is not as close together as it might seem like before. Like the national borders are more strict. Like for example, when Italy the last weeks drowned under the cases of COVID-19, like no other European country helped out with medical equipment or doctors. And what's the biggest helper for Italy at the moment is, I think, China, which helped them out quite good. But I expected like that Europe maybe overcome the national borders and manage the crisis together. But apparently the nationalism is big in every country at the moment. So
so what's the learning that you have out of this?
Yeah, the learning was that maybe we are, as a society of European countries, not as far as we would have expected.
I had a really good conversation with Lucas, and I think to concentrate a bit more on the positive, we're all unintentionally staying away, and we're helping climate change. So we've seen, I think, worldwide a lot of wildlife have the chance to breathe, and also the world have a chance to breathe. And yeah, there's a lot of negatives to concentrate on, but at least staying at home, it feels like we're doing something good for the planet at the end of the day.
Thanks also for Katerina for mentioning the topic of the nature and what's happening there, because that's why we have this topic this year. And this was chosen by our symposium team of this year, Samantha and Lauren, who put this program together and came up also with the topic and description because they had so much passion for it. So let us ask Lauren and Samantha now to introduce the topic, why this topic, and what were the thoughts about it.
Okay, thank you, Angela. Yeah, I think that was a really great start, and it's good to hear, where am I looking here? It's good to hear from everyone already this morning. And yeah, good morning, everyone. It's lovely to be here with you all kind of virtually, and thank you for joining us. We are obviously a bit disappointed that it couldn't be in person as we had planned, but we're really glad that that hasn't stopped us from meeting. And actually, yeah, there are even loads more of us than we expected. So, you know, it's a silver lining. And we have some really interesting sessions planned for today. Many months of work has kind of gone into this from Sammy and I as like symposium organisers, but also from the whole UAA Council who have been supporting us. And yeah, we wanted to start the day by giving you just a bit of background on why we chose the topic of climate action for this year's symposium.
So, You as a Catalyst for Change is what we've named the symposium title. We are very aware that the climate crisis is an ever-pressing issue. It's in the media all the time, and it's really important. It's still happening now, as was really nicely brought up by Katerina, but we're seeing some positive repercussions from what is happening. Me and Lauren especially noticed in our Unitech year last year that it didn't matter what background you're from, which country you were from, what engineering basis you were from, everyone could talk about climate change and how it's affecting them. And so we thought this would be a really good topic to have today to discuss as a large group of Unitech alumnus. The climate change topic is really quite a broad one. You can discuss many things. So we thought as a whole committee, as a whole council, that it would be nice to hone in slightly by considering you as a catalyst for change and really focusing on what you as an individual can do, not necessarily the things that we are already aware of, like you know, reducing our single-use plastic by buying a sustainable water bottle and things like this, but more looking at the bigger picture. So yes, don't want to give too much away about what is following, but pass back to Lauren.
Yeah, so yeah, we thought it would be interesting to hear from speakers with all different backgrounds and from different industries, and what they're doing towards sustainability, and then how you can make a difference as well with you. And we want you to come away from this having learned something or been inspired, and with like an action plan, a personal action plan for how you can either individually make a difference or within your company, how you can contribute to climate action. So yeah, we really hope you enjoy the day ahead. And I think now I will introduce our first speaker. So yeah, this speaker, he has a background in chemical engineering, as do we, and a PhD in process engineering, and he has expertise in innovation and business development. He's now the Chief Technical Officer at Bühler, which I'm sure we're all familiar with. It is a company that develops sustainable processing technology solutions to produce food that's enjoyed by 2 billion people every day. As CTO at this company, he has driven the cultural change program there, which has included working on the sustainability mission of the company, and he was EU CTO of the Year in 2016. So without further ado, I'd like to pass over to our first speaker, an honorary Unitech alumnus, Dr. Ian Roberts.
Congratulations to Angela, to Sammy, to Lauren for putting this together. I have to say I was a little skeptical that this would work on a Saturday, and I'm deeply impressed by the spirit of the alumni to come together on a Saturday morning digitally. And I think it's really important. I think it sets a good tone as well for the times that we're living in, where we need to drive much more collaboration. We need to drive this spirit of supporting each other, of sharing, of learning, and of caring for each other. I was struck by the first little exercise that you did, and I thought one thing that might be interesting for you before I speak about what we do as a company in climate change is you wanted insight from C-levels. And as an executive board, we had to decide how we manage the company going through this crisis with COVID-19. And it's very, very clear this crisis is going to be with us for a long time. We should not expect that it goes away in weeks. I think it's going to be 9 months. We're still going to be feeling this very strongly. And we need to think about how we gear up to run as societies through this period this year. We set 4 priorities as a company on how we take every decision and everything we do going forward. We said, number 1, we prioritize the health of our employees and their families. So we immediately sat down with all our employees. We looked at their health states. We understood who was at risk, and we self-isolated them. And we did this weeks ago, because this is the right thing to do for your employees. We give them options to work at home, or we give them options to work in safe spaces in the office if it's easy for them. But we need things to keep moving. The second priority is we have to look after the cash, the liquidity of the company, because if we send everyone home for 6 months and then 13,000 people have no jobs at the end of the year, we failed as leaders going forward. The third thing that is important is we must keep our close relations with our customers, because without customers, we don't make money, we don't have a company, we cannot look after our employees, and we can't drive our sustainability mission. And the fourth thing that I think is very important is this drives new ways of working. Everybody was skeptical about working at home. Everybody is skeptical about what they can do digitally and virtually, and can you drive an organization from a massive level of decentralization that we haven't seen before? And the answer is yes. And now we've proved it. Everyone was skeptical. Can I sell to a company? Can I do a deal with a customer without looking them looking them in the eyes and shaking hands with them? Well, first and foremost, you can't shake hands with them now. So there's no point in being in the room. We can still do business digitally. So our carbon footprint from travel has almost gone to 0. Now, why does it need to go back to 100 afterwards? We're already putting in place the programs to make sure it never goes to more than 50% of what we had before, because we can use new innovations and new ways of working. And the one that I think is absolutely critical for us is, how do we drive innovation and new ways of working to bring care into society? And this is not just medical care. Self-isolation and isolation is extremely debilitating for individuals. It's extremely damaging for their mental state. It's extremely difficult. We are herd animals. We are social animals. How do I show people that I care? I can't hug them. I can't shake hands. I can't tell them face to face they're great. It's harder to read my expression. How do we use the new technologies to make people understand that we genuinely care about them and they are important and they're going to get through this and things will go back to normal, and in a year's time we will all just be stronger? And that's the way we've set it up as a company, and I think for us that's the right thing to do. And I thought it was worth sharing, because I'm sure you and your companies are all going through this. Now, the topic I was asked to talk about was more our role in our transformational role in industry around climate change. And I think that's what I will talk about now for the next 15 minutes or so. I think first and foremost, I sit in a very fortunate situation. You know, in 2011, I left Nestle after 18 years of international roles and jobs and around the world. And I joined a little family company in the east of Switzerland that no one had heard of. I moved from B2C, from 90 billion turnover, to the most famous company in the world, running every month for results, to a B2B company with 2 billion turnover and family owned. And the reason I did this was, when I sat down with the CEO, who is now the chairman, we realized that we had the potential to create the best company in the world. And this sounds an outrageous claim. Not the biggest company, not the most profitable company, but our tacit handshake is to create the best company in the world. And I think there's a few factors that come together that make us think we can do this. First and foremost, we're a family company, and you all know that families think differently. Your parents had one preoccupation in every decision that they took, the same as I have one preoccupation in every decision I take. My decisions are for the benefit of my 5 children and possibly my grandchildren. They're not for today. This is how a family company works, and this is what the family holds us to. The second thing that the family says is we must be leaders in innovation. So we will invest in the worst times 4% of turnover in innovation. So this year I can tell you is the worst times. We will invest in innovation. We are not cutting R&D spend because innovation is about the future and doing things better. I think the second thing is our position in the world. As Sammy or Lauren, I don't remember who said it earlier, our technologies feed more than 2 billion people every single day. Our technologies move more than 1 billion people every day. That is an extraordinary capability to drive impact if you can influence on that level. And actually, I'll explain our influence is much higher than that. The third thing is our obsession with impact. We have no interest in greenwashing. I am sick to death of reading annual reports of companies that are all glossy and beautiful and they say that they do good, and actually what they do as a company is not aligned to what they write in their annual report. And I think this is totally unacceptable. It's totally duplicitous when dealing with the outside world. And so everything we talk about here is impact. If it doesn't bring impact, we don't do it. It's very, very simple. And I get fired if we do it. So greenwashing is off the agenda. And I would guess the next thing I would talk about is our maturity in the way that we're empowering young people in the company. So we've created an organization called Generation B. They have a full-time head. The full-time head you will all know is Jay Onin. He has over 500 people who report to him across the company in this role. And their mission is to hold us accountable to create the company that they want to work for in the future. There is no point in having a bunch of 50-year-olds talking about creating the future because we won't be in it. It's about the young people to hold us accountable for it. So this gives me great hope that we can, in fact, create the best company in the world. And we're also absolutely convinced that solving the big problems of the planet and the challenges is a business responsibility. Business must play the role. We have the leadership, the capabilities, and the talent. And driving sustainability and action against climate change requires good business plans, and it requires responsible companies to come together. We decided that we would change the entire approach of the company and the focus of the company about 5 years ago. And we brought our customers together and we discussed this with them. And we set targets of 30% reduction of energy and 30% reduction of waste in our customers' value chains. And we did this, if I think from food, I can give you some interesting numbers. 25% of the world's greenhouse gases are emitted from agriculture. 71% of the world's fresh water is used in agriculture. 1/3 of the world's energy is used to produce food, and 1/3 of the world's food is lost or wasted. It's lost if you're in a developing country. It's wasted if you are in developed countries like ours. At the same time, 820 million people are hungry. So this is a food system that is broken. And we decided in 2016, we thought we had to feed 9 billion people in 2050. And we decided we would reduce energy and waste consumption for our customers by 30%. And this would make a major contribution towards doing that. By 2019, the magnitude of the problem had increased so much, we had to revise all our targets and all our activities. In November 2018, the IPCC published their report on climate change and the devastating and catastrophic route that we run to 2030, and that the chances of staying below, honestly, 3 degrees temperature increase versus pre-industrial time versus the target of 1.5 degrees increase in temperature versus pre-industrial time is going to be almost impossible to attain unless there is massive and wide-scale action taken immediately. Then the Food and Land Use publication came out, and we understood that if we want to sequester the carbon that we're emitting at the moment, we need to do this by redesignating agricultural land for sequestration. This means that we have to feed what is now 10 billion people in 2050 with 30% less land. Think about it. We cannot feed today's population with the land we have available. And if we don't do that, we will not feed the population within the limits of the planet. So in 1970, we utilized exactly 1 year of sequestration capability for the emissions that we produced. So this is what we call Earth Overshoot Day. In 1970, this was on December the 31st. Last year, it was the 1st of August. So that means that we exceeded the capability of the planet to sequester the carbon that we as a race, as a civilization, are emitting by the 1st of August. We went into carbon debt. This is irreparable damage. So our great achievement of the last 50 years since the day I was born is we now use 1.7 planets every year. So this is not sustainable. The third thing we had was the Eat Lancet report was published, and we got a clear understanding of the devastating impact of agriculture, of population growth, and this on the healthcare systems. So we sat down as a company and we said, look, 30% isn't enough, is it? And we ran the calculations and we realized that to have a meaningful contribution, we have to reduce energy consumption, waste consumption, water consumption in our customers' value chains by 50%. We can do it on our sites, but it makes no difference. It's just important to do. But something running 24/7, 365 days of the year for 20 years out to that customer makes a profound difference. So now we run on that mission. These 50% targets, we analyzed and we agreed with our customers. In 2019, we invited 800 customers to come to our little village in the east of Switzerland. And first and foremost, they all came, which was a big surprise. And we talked about these targets. And our current CEO, Stefan, and I took a handshake and we said, if the customers don't buy them, if the shareholders, our family, don't agree with them, we will resign and we will go and do this somewhere else because this needs to be done. We were very fortunate. We announced it on stage. We had 800 C-levels in the room. Between them, they fed more than 4 billion people a day. They moved more than 2 billion people a day. And they fully endorsed the targets we had set, and they signed in to support us to achieve this and to do it together. Hence, we stayed in the company. So now we have our 50-50-50 targets. Now, why 50%? First and foremost, there is no point in galvanizing an entire ecosystem around achieving a target of 30% that we're going to achieve it, and it's still not enough, because then we have basically deluded an entire generation. So we cannot give false hope. We have to be realistic about the magnitude of the challenge. Secondly, nobody but a complete idiot would try and do this on their own. This drives a need for massive collaboration and partnership. And partnership has to be a core competence for every single one of you and every single one of your companies if we are to go through effectively and tackle this battle with climate change, because we don't have much time. Thirdly, I am absolutely sick to death about the argument of who is right. We have to be very, very clear. Every single tool, capability, lever available to us must be used now. And if you can influence something that will mitigate climate change, it is your responsibility to do it and to help others do it. And don't sit around on your backside arguing about who is most right. That will not in any way solve the problem. Now, we as a company face the challenge as well to make sure that our entire company buys into this. And we ask 3 questions continuously. Am I doing enough as an individual? Are we doing enough as a company? Are we doing enough to change the industry? Because the industry is the scale question. The I question is important. And we realized very quickly that people are not informed. It is not my job to tell our employees how to live their lives. They're intelligent individuals. It is my job to make sure that they can take informed decisions, that they understand the carbon footprint of every pair of trainers they buy, of every set of running shoes that you buy because you have a New Year's resolution to get fit and you put it in the cupboard, of every flight you take because it's fun to go partying in City X for a weekend, of every decision you take around purchasing, around energy mix. There are so many decisions we take every day about what you put on your plate. Plant-based proteins, 8.6 times lower CO2 footprint than chicken. I'm not talking than beef. Think about those decisions. And our job is to make sure our employees understand all of this. This would be a fantastic job for the Unitech alumni, to roll out know-how for informed decisions. That is, am I doing enough? Before you start planting trees, before you do everything else, look at your lifestyle, understand the decisions that you take every single day. Are we doing enough as a company? We spend 150 million a year on R&D. We will not approve 1 franc of R&D spend that doesn't go against our targets anymore. That's the biggest contribution I believe we can make. We go out, we talk, we inspire, we communicate, we sponsor R&D programs. We're building a program with 70 postdocs in Switzerland to look at sustainable food supply. Each one of those will supervise 2 PhDs. Each PhD supervises 2 master's students. This brings a critical mass of phenomenal knowledge that will enable us to create the next technologies for the future of food. I think it's terrifically important, but we as a company have to do more and more internally, and we have to live by this promise. Are we doing enough as an industry? We will pull the industry together. We will share our stories. What we do now, it's not us talking to industry. We pick all our customers, all our partners, even our competitors, and we showcase them to everybody else, because we have to bring lighthouse examples. People have to follow inspiration, and people have to transfer these technologies. The battle we face is that by 2025, we need solutions available everywhere, because there is no point having a lot of sexy products in sales catalogs in 2030, because we will all be suffering from massive climate change. We have to have products, solutions, partnerships ready to scale by 2025, and that only gives us 5 years to multiply them globally. A couple of things we're doing that I think are quite interesting that I will share with you, and then we move to questions. We decided to change the way we innovate to drive partnership. One of the things we did was we set up what is now the biggest startup accelerator in Europe, and it's called Mass Challenge in Switzerland. I'm the president of Mass Challenge. I have the good fortune to work for a company that allows me to do other things on company time that we believe do good for society. We set this up in order to be the rising tide that lifts all boats. So we brought the Startup Accelerator from the US, we brought it into Switzerland. It's an NGO. We take no equity from startups. So the aim is to make the startups successful. And then what we do is we put them through a 4-month training program. We give them equity-free, no strings attached cash prizes. In order to finance this, we called customers and we called competitors, and we went and sat with their CEOs and we put the money on the table. And we finance this every year. Last year, we had 1,600 startups apply to our program in Switzerland, 600 of them for sustainable food, many of them for climate change, many of them for e-mobility. So I think this is a fantastic example of companies coming together with competitors to drive collaboration and unlock entrepreneurship, which is exactly what we are going to need if Europe is to remain competitive as an industrial base and to survive as a harmonious society. And also if the European Union is going to somehow stay together in a way. So that's one example. And the second example is Unitech. You all know I'm an enormous fan of Unitech. I had the honor to sit on the board for a while, and I still get the chance to help a little bit occasionally. I think it's a fantastic organization. if I look through Unitech, I could almost see in the last 10 years of alumni, I could see the talent that would enable us to bring Europe back to a really strong economic power. One of the things we're doing with Unitech interns is we hire a group in. We work with a lab called the Crowther Lab. So Tom Crowther, if you've never seen him, go and watch him on YouTube. This is the guy who quantified the carbon cycle and the impact of trees and the formation of leaves and the fall of leaves on the entire carbon sequestration of the planet. He's quantified which trees to plant, where to plant them, how to maintain them in order to have the maximum impact on the CO2 levels in the atmosphere. We work with him, and together we've created, with Jay and the team, a little accelerator where we have Unitech students supporting him to identify genuinely impactful reforestation projects in the world so that we can give more options to people to support truly audited, solid programs. And then on the second side, we built an accelerator for CO2 evaluation where our businesses can come with their technologies and their solutions, and we have a team that quickly for them assesses the CO2 impact of all their solutions. This is a wonderful accelerator for us and for our innovation. The students get an extraordinary experience because you work with the guy who is the UN advisor on reforestation and climate change, and he's one of the coolest guys you will ever meet. And you get to work with a company that can bring profound impact. And for a company, we get an accelerator of our entire mission to see how we can mitigate climate change as a company. So those are two examples I wanted to share. The question to the alumni is, are you doing enough as individuals? Are you doing enough as a network? Are you doing enough as an industry change vehicle to mitigate climate change? And what more could you do to support people suffering under the COVID-19 initiative? You have the technologies, you have the collaboration capability. Those are 2 points of clear purpose that will enable you to align and drive change. Everything, I think, is in your hands now to do something very impressive. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Ian. This was a very inspiring speech, and I think we can all be very thankful that you were able to join us today with all the madness there has been around coronavirus. And I imagine that in your role as a leader, this have been also some intense weeks for you. So thank you very much for that. I will now give the floor to some of the participants who have been asking questions for you in the group chat. So let me start with Matthijs van Reurijk. So Matthijs, if you could unmute yourself and ask your question to Ian. So Matthijs, I think we're not able to hear you, so I'm gonna ask your question because it seems like everyone can hear me. Is that okay? Good. Okay, so Matthijs says, thank you, Ian, for setting and committing to impactful targets. Out of curiosity, how did Bühler progress towards the goals set 5 years ago? And what did you learn from setting those goals?
Well, I think, first of all, thank you for the question. I think it's highly relevant. I will give you the answer in from a couple of perspectives. First of all, we galvanized the whole company. We got our R&D guys working behind those targets, and we brought some very good successes to the market. So in that period, we brought an entire way of milling flour that will reduce the energy consumption per kilo by between 10 and 20%. We brought out solutions that eliminate water use by 95% in maize processing for tortillas, which is the staple food of 300 million people. So I can go through, I mean, we have lots of examples of creating architectural glass that reduce energy use in a building by 50%. So we had lots of, I would say, very solid lighthouse examples, but we hadn't yet built a consistent performance across all of the company. So it takes time. You need to create the inspirational examples. You need to track the targets. You need to track the progress. And to try and do this in 3 years, I think is very, very difficult. On the other hand, we grew up as a company. We understood that our impact was far greater than we thought it would be. We understood that our convening power was better than the World Economic Forum in terms of the food space, because the World Economic Forum asked if they could piggyback onto our meetings. So we suddenly discovered that we could bring an extremely profound change in the company. And that was a big step in terms of our confidence as being change bringers or change makers. So I think that was very positive. So I would say there were many, many positive aspects. We had many good examples, but we didn't consistently have the high level that we wanted across the whole company. And that's why, you know, that's one of the challenges we face to ramp up now and to move forward with as much energy as possible as we go towards 50% targets. What we do have is a total alignment across the company, is that this is the company strategy. This is not a sustainability strategy. And that's a major, major step.
Thank you. So we have another question. Let me ask that one myself. So a unitecher is asking, how can the reference examples like Bühler, who is leading in this topic, drive change with other companies in pushing viable business models? Is it only through partnerships? How can we push long-term vision in other companies from a leading position?
I love this question because, you know, there is no way that we will drive the wholesale change that we need on point-to-point collaboration or thinking in industry sectors. I mean, there are when we brought our customers together last year. So, you know, you've got 800 C-levels in a room, and I think the key thing there was that they took many actions. We changed their mindset. My favorite feedback, and we got this hundreds of times, was we have now embedded sustainable thinking into every decision we take in the company. And then you start getting stories back. I mean, I met a CEO and he said, do you know what I did? I switched every single packaging, every single bag that we have in Indonesia to compostable. And I said, well, I mean, was it economically viable? No, it cost me more, but it was the right thing to do. I said, is that a lot? He says, 10 million bags. I said, well, that's interesting, you know, because that has no impact on my business as Bühler, but it's the things that we're very proud of is when we influence decision-making and we help people, we help them to easily take decisions that are long-term sustainable, but maybe not short-term in the interest of their finances. And I think there we see a big impact. So I think role models, lighthouses, this guy, Tom Crowther, I talked to you about, in 20 minutes, he changed the opinion of 800 people. In 20 minutes. He drove the whole thing that even makes Donald Trump pledge to plant 1 trillion trees. This is one guy. Now you put him up in front of any audience, they are changed for life. So we need these change makers, these inspirers. And I think you need to bring them into your company. We've spent years picking the most impressive, most credible people into our company, bringing them into the company and giving them a podium to speak to our management and our employees. And if you do that, you start changing your company. It doesn't happen overnight. The beauty is there is nobody, thanks to that wonderful young lady, Greta Thunberg, who many people dislike, but I can tell you she has more impact for raising the visibility of the climate challenge than any other single individual in the history of our planet. This is an extraordinary achievement. So when you go to your management with great examples of how they can bring value, how they can drive impact, not one of them doesn't want to do it. They just don't know how to do it. And that's where you have to help them with great examples.
Thank you very much. Well, there are more and more questions popping up, but unfortunately we will have to move forward. Also nice that you're mentioning the Crowder Lab. Actually, one of our speakers today is the managing director, Thomas Elliott. So we are really looking forward to his speech, and you really left the platform for him to shine now.
Well, that's a remarkable coincidence, isn't it?
Indeed. Yes. So I will now give the floor to Lauren and Sammy that will be leading the discussion and reflection we will be having now.
Thank you very much indeed. Have a wonderful day. I'm going to go and play with my 5 children, but I hope you have a great day.